Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. I'm Paolo. This is Ashwin.
Hi, everyone. Ashwin here.
Awesome. Do you want to introduce yourself first, Ashwin?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. My name is Rtmp. I'm a senior PM working on the product group for Teams live events. So really excited to have everyone here learning about how to utilize our product for live events.
Yeah, pretty big name on campus. We've secured a bit of your time. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. And I'm one of the technology architects here at the MTC. So we'll talk about that in just a second. So who's at least had a try with Teams live events before? OK, that's a good start. And who's tried with an external encoder? Love it. OK. And who's done stuff with external production companies, faking webcams, and all sorts of craziness? A few hands. OK. So if you put your hands up to all three of those things, you might want to go get a beer. But if you put your hand up to one or two of those things, you're going to learn something. But seriously, I know we are between you and a drink, so feel free if it's not for you. So I mentioned the MTC. Who's been to an MTC before? OK, so just really briefly on this then. So MTCs, we are included in the licensing costs for Microsoft. We support big enterprise customers. And our mission is to deliver immersive experiences a bit like this. There are 42 of us around the world. There'll be one in a city or country near you. And we do that through 6 engagement types, everything from strategy briefings, a bit like what we're doing now, all the way through to hackathons and architectural design sessions. So we do a lot. If you're interested in some of this, get in contact with your local MTC. OK, so we've kind of made an assumption, and I think we got it right, fortunately, that you have at least tried a basic live event in Teams. If that's not the case, don't worry, because you're going to kind of see it happen. But what we're going to focus on really is the pro AV side of this. We're not going to look at Q&A. We're not going to look at moderation, Yammer post, that kind of thing. So all of those broader, amazing features, which are great, that's not for this session. There are other sessions that would cover them. You've just missed one. So Ed Hild in the middle there, so Breakout 2274. You can watch that back. It got recorded. Do you want to plug your session tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely. So tomorrow we have a session around 3:15 talking about live events within Teams. We'll be really talking about the different types of scenarios that you'll be able to utilize our product for, as well as learn a bit more about the technical side of live events. So really hoping all of you will be there, and looking forward to speaking about live events there.
Good beans. So today then, understand your options for running professional events just using Teams. We're going to do external encoders, injecting pre-recorded videos, so hardware and software, using studio cameras and mixers, I should say, outside broadcasting. We'll kind of define what we mean by that. We're going to look at a case study, so a big Microsoft event in the UK, Future Decoded, that ran on Teams, and some complexities around auditorium scenarios and some gotchas there that, well, frankly, you're not going to like, but at least you'll know about them. So, OK. Let's start, first of all, looking at external encoders. So what you've probably seen already is, and let me just switch the video across here. I'll keep switching screens because that's what's getting recorded. So when you press New Meeting in Teams and you go into a live event and you type something in here and you go across, in fact, I'll start this as test encoder 1. You've got the option to do a Teams-produced event, which we'll actually come on to later, or an external app or device. Now, what you might have noticed is at the top there, it grays out the option to be public if you choose an external encoder. And if I just show you Yammer, same deal. So you need to be an admin of the Yammer channel and then create a live event. You have the 2 options there as well, which roughly go to the same place. So just move that back. In fact, just put the slides back up. So external encoders use Stream, and Stream needs authentication. Therefore, you can't use external encoders for anonymous events. Now, events are still good for up to 10,000 people if you're licensed for 10,000 internal users. If it's all external, that's all good, but you need to use Teams to produce that event. It's not currently possible to use an external encoder. So we'll look at how we get around that in a bit. But for now, we'll stick with the idea of just using an external encoder.
Hey, Paul, just one thing. So just for clarification purposes, Paul mentioned there are two scenarios, right? One around live events using encoders, another using webcam. And just for clarification, those two scenarios. Can you hear me better now?
We'll get you turned up.
Okay, great.
Amazing.
So the two different scenarios today are powered by two different services. As many of you know, Skype Meeting Broadcast is a product that we had previously. And we are continuing to use the goodness and the services of Skype Meeting Broadcast, which has capabilities for guest, federation, and anonymous. And that's why there's a difference between the two different scenarios, where one goes to stream and doesn't have certain functionality and the other does. So just wanted to provide that clarification right there.
Yeah. Good point. If we say something that you just fundamentally think is wrong, or you don't understand, then do stop us. Otherwise, we might defer the slightly more complex questions to the end, just because I've done this a few times, and whatever order I explain it in is not the way you want it explained in. That's kind of the only guarantee, but we'll just plow on for now. So I'm going to create an encoder event, so I need to pick one that has authentication, and then I'll go external app or device. And I'm just going to take all the fancy stuff for now, because it's not a focus for us, although it's obviously some great product features there. Oh, sorry, yep, wrong screen, cheers. Sorry? No, it's not OBS, no. So it's going to be an Rtmp endpoint. So I'll show you all the way through. So, oh. Not me. I'll try doing it and moving it back. Hang on. OK, no worries. Let's just have a little swapsy here. Yeah, somebody in the front row just said if I was broadcasting that, it would have been a different story. True. OK, so I just created that as a external encoder option, and you'll see if you've used the usual kind of Teams live broadcast, it looks quite different. So if you go down here, it's got the SSL or non-SSL version of your ingest URLs. We'll go non-SSL for now. So this is Rtmp, which is not OBS, but is a good standard. Lots of things use it, including the TriCaster, so we're all good there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that URL, and I'll press Start Setup. And Start Setup is just going to kind of go behind the scenes into Azure and get those endpoints ready to accept a connection. So first thing I'm going to show you is software, and then we'll come on to hardware. So there are a variety of packages that you can use to send Rtmp streams to Teams Live events. I'm going to use Manycam just because I quite like it and it's quite cheap. I'm not advertising Manycam. I'm not sponsoring it, but it is kind of good. So you go into live stream, and I'm just going to add it. Obviously, this will be different depending on your setup. Doesn't matter what you call it. We don't use the stream key, so that doesn't matter either. And then I'll just click Create. And I should say Start Stream, like that. And then I'll just start my looped video. So this could be anything you want. Obviously, this is a video. All these slots down here for Manycam, and I'm not going to do a Manycam advert. You could put extra stuff in there. You could put webcams in or whatever. So if I go back to Teams, you obviously have that usual quite nervous wait where you're waiting for the encoder to start, but that's all fine. But there's my encoder, and I'll press Start Event, and that's going to then send it off. And everything from this point forward, it's going to look the same as a Teams-produced event to attendees, right?
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so the video was, so the question was how much we just prepared. So I took everything there from the very start of that process. I didn't have anything prepped apart from my video in Manycam. So we went into Teams, we set that up. That's now running live. So if you've got an external production company, they might just say, don't care about all this Teams nonsense, just give me an Rtmp endpoint. That's fine, they can just send it off that way. So that's the software example of doing that, basically.
And so the video that you saw right before he clicked on start, that's coming straight from the encoder itself. Yeah. So you'll be able to see the preview before you actually start the event for your attendees. So you can ensure that everything is coming through properly.
Yeah, it's coming
almost
through,
like a test.
Yeah, sorry. So down at the bottom here, I didn't call it out, but it was yellow. It said pre-live. So you have confidence that you're getting the encoder, and then when you're happy, you can send it live. Obviously, for speed, I've just done it on the same machine. It could be completely separate machines. The Rtmp endpoint is just a public endpoint.
It's not the same as the scenario of I want to watch a video in the middle of my presentation.
Yeah. Exactly. It's essentially to make sure that everything is working properly, you're getting the feed. And sometimes you don't want to start it right away. You want to be able to test it out and be able to wait till it's the proper time to actually start it for your attendees. One thing to remember is once you click start, that's when your recording starts as well. So there's like a 45-minute lead time. You really don't want that in your recording. So you'll start it around like 10 minutes before the event.
Yeah. OK, so I've now gone into just a second encoder event. Nothing's different about the setup. The reason I set this one up in advance, I'll just press Start Setup, is because I wanted to copy the Rtmp endpoint address to the clipboard and stick it on a USB key so I could walk it over to the TriCaster. So again, I'm not advocating a TriCaster. This one's a TriCaster Mini. They're reasonably inexpensive. There's a mixing desk up top here, keyboard and mouse, and there's a box underneath. But it's pretty portable. But it is reasonably industry standard. A lot of people have them, which is good. So I'm going to just choose the stream option up here. And I've already set this up with the Rtmp endpoint. Again, it'll be different depending on what kind of hardware and software you've got, but broadly the same. And I've just got different video here that I'll set away. And that's just going to loop. So different way of doing it. That's now. Oh yes, of course, because that screen's not working. So same deal. You get a little spinning arrow because it knows something's coming, and in about 10 seconds, we should get that through as well.
Paul, one thing to note. A little biased as I am, I'm from Teams. You can obviously do this through Teams, but as a product and as one Microsoft. We try to strive to provide you with an experience wherever you're comfortable with. So you'll be able to do this right through Stream as well. So if that's something that you're comfortable with, you can do it in Stream. Or if your workloads take you to Teams, you'll be able to do it just like this in Teams as well, where we're embedded it and made it very seamless for you to be able to connect your encoder.
Yeah, great point. And obviously, it's streamed behind the scenes, right? So even in Teams, when you play this, you'll see the little stream buffer icon and stuff. We don't try very hard to disguise it. So if Stream is your thing, great. Just remember, of course, Stream, you can't have unauthenticated events, same as this. But if you're using Teams, then I turned it all off. But you could have things like the Q&A and all of that kind of stuff as well. So that's hardware and software encoder options. OK. Next up, right, so that's great, and often professional production companies will just want to send to an Rtmp endpoint, and that's fine if your event is internal, it's authenticated, either whole company plus guests or particular groups that you have. What if you want to do a completely anonymous event? As we said, Stream is not an option, so we're back to Teams as the way of doing that. And actually, Teams does give us a bit more flexibility. So you can still mix a professionally produced event, again, with hardware or software. But you've also got additional flexibility with Teams because you can add multiple sources, and then you can mix those sources in Teams if you need to. So what I've said is there, it's great for execs and stuff, and great for anonymous broadcast. So what I mean by the executive is that maybe you'll have a certain amount of content being mixed centrally on something like a mixing desk, coming into Teams as one feed, and then you might want some remote participants outside broadcast style to be part of that as well, and you don't want the hassle of trying to get them into that production fold. So let's have a look at that and see what it looks like.
A little backstory on that. We went through multiple rounds of research in terms of figuring out what's the most seamless way that users would want to be able to produce a live event in the confines of their laptop. We looked at various different products, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make it as seamless as possible for you to be able to open up your laptop, open up Teams, and produce a high-quality live event right through your laptop. And what we're trying to, again, iterate on is how can we make this even easier. So those are some of the things that it's top of the mind right now to be able to take this and make it even easier to be able to produce a high-quality live event.
Yeah. OK, so this same deal then, I've just created the event as a Teams event. So let's join the production experience. Many of you have probably been reasonably familiar with this, so I haven't fiddled with anything yet. And we're going to get the multi-screen. So we're going to get the two screens side by side. I've obviously dialed the resolution down to 1920, 1080, so we've got it slightly clipped, but you would have a much bigger video. So it builds on a Teams meeting. I mean, this is currently just the built-in webcam from there. And you can invite multiple people into this if you put them on the roster as either producers or presenters. There's a difference. So producer, presenter, attendee. So this is the producer experience. You get the ability to pick the content, unlike a meeting that just obviously brings to the foreground the video with the last used audio. So you get to pick the content, and you get to obviously mute people, start and stop the event, etc. The presenter experience looks a lot more like a regular meeting. So that's actually really good for people like execs or so on who are just joining from another location, another office. They don't want to see any of this gubbins. They don't understand it. They just want to join what they think is a regular Teams meeting. So they will just see all the audio sources. They can interact with the instant messaging and so on, but they don't get the presenter experience. I should probably show you that, but I'm running out of HDMIs. Let's try the one that didn't work on a different laptop and see what happens.
One note here, as much as the experience feels like a whole different product, we're leveraging a lot of what we have today in Teams meetings. As Paul mentioned, this experience right here is built on top of Teams meetings that you know and use every day. So that's why you'll be able to bring in and pull in presenters, as well as, more importantly, all the goodness that we do in Teams meetings around quality and reliability will automatically translate to here as well. So we're trying to reuse as much as possible and ensure that we're building once and not having to be building twice.
Yeah. I planned everything to be above so you could follow along, and that's all fallen by the wayside now. That's now going into the Surface Hub. So this is another user in the same tenant. This is now Sarah. So the previous laptop was Frank, who was the producer. Sarah's going to join the same live event as a presenter, so we see the difference. So if I just join as Sarah, there we go. Now Sarah's experience is going to look a whole lot more like a standard meeting. So like I say, that's actually quite useful for attendees who might not want any of the confusion of what's happening with a live event. So there's Sarah joining as just as a presenter, and I'll flip back to Frank, and Frank has the full producer experience, but now has two inputs because he's got Sarah's input and he's got his own input. In a minute. Oh no, switched to the wrong one because I borrowed the.
Got a question?
Stole the HDMI from over there.
I'm going to show how to, if you put like I know with a regular Teams meeting they have the new feature where you can like play the sound on your feature, but I didn't know that was available in live.
Yeah, so I'm just going to repeat the question before you answer it. So the question was, can you include system audio when you screen share in a live meeting, in a live event?
Yeah, definitely. So You're right. In Teams meetings, we recently released a feature that allows you to be able to play a video right in on your laptop and that audio to go through. Currently, that is not available in Teams live events, but we understand that this is one of the most asked about features from our customers. So we're really thinking about how we can bring that over to Teams or live events, but I don't have a date I can share with you right now.
The comments from the front row, it's the reason why we go to an external encoder, because we can't include system audio. So yeah, it's a really good point. It is worth mentioning, though, that even if you had the ability to include system audio, you're including system audio on a screen share, which is limited to, I don't know if anybody knows, I think it's like 17 frames a second or something like that. It's not 25, it's certainly not 30, because it's not designed for that. So yes, it's kind of the poor man's way to play a cheeky YouTube video in the background, but it's not going to get you through like a major public event. But yeah, you're right. For some people, having it all built in, it's really attractive. So I'll just show you the kind of the next step up then. So software, and then we'll go hardware. So if I come back to Manycam, as well as being able to send to an Rtmp endpoint, one of the other things that Manycam can do is just fake a webcam. So there's a webcam driver in Windows now, which is called Manycam. Like I say, a few other products do the same thing. So if I go into my cogs, and I can just pick that, I can pick Manycam as an audio source, so it gets the audio from the video, and I can pick the virtual webcam here as well. And now there's my video available from Manycam that I can send live. So no hardware involved with this, a little bit of third-party software, granted, but this is now sending what Teams believes is a webcam into the stream, which is kind of useful, because now that's at 25, 30 frames per second, and that's going to go straight into your live event as something that's pretty high quality. Sorry? So I said we download, what, the Manycam stuff? Yeah, it's a third party. Yeah, there are lots of alternatives, but essentially you're looking for software that can fake a Windows webcam, and there are a few of them. So this is quite nice because it's not an external encoder for anonymous, but this is going to work authenticated or anonymous. And you can obviously mix this to do whatever you want in whatever software you've used. Plus, you can add however many additional presenters you want. And those presenters get the really simplified experience of just a standard Teams meeting. And if I shake the mouse over this, and I'll just put it back onto the middle screen, you're going to probably regret doing that. But anyway, I just want to show you, it does just look like a standard meeting. And you can see the participants. You can chat to each other. So this is the presenter experience we're looking at now, and the producer experience that we've just covered. OK, so that's the software way of doing that. Now let's move on to the hardware way of doing that. Software's fine if that gets you what you want, but probably won't get you all the way there. So the next thing is to find some hardware that can fake a USB webcam. Again, there are lots on the market. A really popular one with producers is the Blackmagic product line. This is Ava Media, which does it in 4K. But essentially, you're looking at anything that takes in HDMI and ends it in USB for a webcam. This one is about $150. It's pretty cheap. Blackmagic one's a little bit more. You can rack mount them. It's kind of neat. Again, lots of manufacturers that do this. I'm not advertising one brand. Now, obviously, once you've got an HDMI lead, you've got a lot more flexibility. Here, I've got my work laptop, which I've forgotten to move to another user profile. So let's hope I don't get an email. But I'll just plug that in. And now, same deal. This is... Where's the other end of this HDMI lead? Yeah, this is here as well. So I should be able to pick that as a camera. Here it is. Portable gamer thing. There we are. And now that's just coming in from a laptop. So essentially, it's just taking HDMI out from whatever you give it and putting it into Teams as a webcam that then goes into the live event. And the obvious logical extension for that, of course, is to take it to something like a production system. And this is where I've really... not done myself any favors with my HDMI routing in this room, but let's see if it'll reach anyway. And I'll just give you your bag back if you don't mind. Here we go. We are gradually building a stunning artwork of an actual event here. So, okay, let's plug this in. Yeah. Okay, what have we got here? Yes, there we are. Fantastic. Okay, so now we're looking at the TriCaster, so I'll just flip that back for anybody who has had the patience to watch this online. So here we are. So this is the TriCaster hardware just outputting, this time not over Rtmp, but over HDMI. And then that was going in through the AVA Media HDMI to USB dongle and into Teams. Nobody knows any difference. Looks like a lovely looking live event. Okay. I feel like I should pause for some questions at this point. How are we doing for time? Yeah, okay. Does anybody, can I use this? Is that all right? Are we good to? Give me a second to, yeah, we're good.
The scenario I'm looking for is to create like a bumper front and a bumper end, basically. Right now, I only know how to do it, at least in stream. That's where I found out I was limited in this case, but that's what I'm trying to do. So what would be the best way, hardware or software? I have like a bump with like music starting, like the show starting, credits. We play, and at the end, credits out. What would be your suggestion in putting that together?
Right, okay, so the easiest way to do that probably would be software. And what I'd suggest is whatever feeds you would have for your live event anyway, down the bottom here, find another laptop, add it as another user, have some software on that where you've got your videos queued up, and then just queue those videos in. The thing about Manycam is you've obviously, on the products like it, you've got to use your mouse to select things and know when to start the video and all the rest of it. That's why I prefer the TriCaster for hardware. You can stack all those videos up. They'll play end to end. You can mix between them. Yeah. So look. So we've got HDMI 1 was going to be the laptop, but I never used it in the end. But I can queue up. I can queue up the camera, and then I can fade through to the camera. We'll get the camera there, which is this. So this is just kind of a nicer idea of being able to put it all together. But that's really obviously just with a single input. But for something simpler, just some software that would let you do that. Yeah, that's right. It's made by NewTek. But again, I'm not advertising it. There are loads of things that do the same thing.
So from the product side,
that's a TriCaster Mini. It's not $40,000.
From the product side, just one quick note before we go to the next question. So these are some of the things that we're continuously thinking about. How can we better the product to provide you with an experience where you can have a bumper and you can have videos playing before and after, which essentially emulate an actual live event that you would do with one of these encoders. So again, it's an iterative process for us. We have limited resources to be able to focus on the high priority scenarios, but rest assured, these are some of the things that we're continuously thinking about of how do we better the experience of producing a live event through your laptop.
Okay, my question is, so in case of, say, doctor is looking a patient, and definitely the patient has a lot of multi-cameras or things like that. So is there a way from the doctor side, can I zoom in, zoom out, to see a specific area of that particular patient?
Oh.
So just to clarify and to repeat the question, if in a scenario where you're using our product for a doctor and a patient scenario, am I able to zoom into the video and zoom out? But just a clarifying question, are you talking about using live events for this scenario?
Yes.
Okay. So just looking at a product as a whole to answer that question around can I zoom in, zoom out, unfortunately both from a producer point of view as well as from an attendee point of view, there's no functionality to zoom in. That's something that we haven't built into Teams meetings yet, nor is it available for a scenario where you're watching a stream as an attendee. So at the end of the day, the attendee is watching a stream. That's how we can scale out to 10,000, the encoding and decoding and encoding. So for a player, unfortunately, you won't be able to do that. But rest assured, again, sorry for repeating myself on this, scenarios around telehealth is something that we're really thinking about as a scenario to go after for Teams meetings. So we see it being a natural fit for a meeting scenario because it's almost one-to-one. So that's something that we're thinking about.
Okay, We'll take one more now, and then I just want to get through a little bit more. Sorry, I forgot where I put it. A little bit more content, and then we'll stay till whenever afterwards. Hi.
Thank you. We've been hosting a lot of live events for town halls, large department meetings. The challenge we always have being a global company is we're running it there in our office, and they say to us the week before the meeting, oh, I have a guy in Germany who's going to talk in the middle of the meeting. And we utilize an external encoder, multiple cameras. In that scenario, I don't know of a way to be able to have the guy using an external encoder to have somebody who's not physically in the space, remote somewhere, to participate and talk in that meeting. Is there anything I could look at?
Oh, great question, great question. So an external encoder specifically, no, because you've got literally one Rtmp endpoint that you send into a meeting. But what I showed just before with the multiple presenters in a call, that would really help you out here. So if you use this idea of the HDMI ingestion, then you could have as many additional presenters as you wanted in there. So it's quite common to have maybe one main mix from an auditorium that's really lavishly produced, and then people coming in from satellite offices or whatever, and you can just mix inside of Teams here. So I can take this and say, okay, now we're going to go, which laptop are we on that one? now we're going to go over to this guy over here and talk about whatever, and then I'm talking about that, and then we can go back to our production in the room. It gets a bit more interesting if your colleague in Germany has a crowd of people in an auditorium watching it. Put a pin in that for 5 minutes and we'll come back to it.
Another thing to just add is we recently released a feature to be able to bring someone in right from that screen itself. So if you go to the People tab, you'll be able to, what we call a nudge, where you can type in the person and bring them in real time during the event. We see that happening a lot where someone's sick and you haven't included them in the invite. You'll be able to do that very easily.
In the same way you would in a standard meeting, which is really good.
Yeah.
So I just want to take you through a bit of a case study. It'll only take maybe 5-6 minutes, and then we'll take a few more questions. So I'm the producer for Future Decoded Live in the UK. So FD is a big conference, about 14,000 people. It's a big Microsoft event in the UK. And what we do is it's 2 8-hour days, and we kind of run content around the clock. So we take keynotes from a main auditorium, and then we mix it with breakout sessions, a bit like you've got here at Ignite, and then a ton of stuff that we film from a studio. We call them magazine segments, but essentially, customers, partners, all that kind of thing. So, got a couple of pictures. That's the auditoriums. That seats obviously a few thousand people. And then this is a different view. Oh, yes. So that's a video running with just some end cards. That's iMag and slides. That's like half of the screen that we just looked at. And then this is the expo, and as part of the expo, we built a little studio. There it is on build day. We've all got our yellow jackets on. And on the end here, we built a little wall to show how we did it in Teams. And it's really just what I've shown you. So just going to take you through that. I suppose I could write on this, couldn't I? So this one here is the equivalent of a TriCaster. I mean, it's not. It's something else, but you get the idea. So the shots get mixed in there. That's literally just what I've shown you. So that's just, that was using Blackmagic web producers to pull it into Teams. And then obviously the output, just as you'd expect, with it being anonymous, you can view it in a browser as well. You don't need the Teams client, which is good. So just a few considerations on that. I might just show. So, oops. So we really had 3 feeds. We had the auditorium, we had the studio, and we had an expo area as well that we ran some fiber to. So what we did in the auditorium was have, I think it was like 9 cameras, something like that. I'll just draw little arrows anyway. And that went into a mixer in the auditorium. In the studio, we had, I think it was like 4 cameras maybe. And that went into our main mixer for live. And actually, the fiber that we ran from the expo just went back to the studio. But the way we did it was we took a single mix from the auditorium cameras, the one that we like the look of, and that got sent by the auditorium live team, and then we mixed it with whatever our studio mix was and our expo feed, and that's what ultimately went live. And then it forked, and it forked 2 ways. It forked to SkyCap, which was the captioning, so that went off to be captioned, and then it came back and went into 2 machines, one that was sending it. So these are Blackmagic web producers, and then both of them. So that's HDMI in or SDI in, I think it was, and then that was then USB out to 2 machines running Teams, and that's how we did it. And I've got a picture of that, so we can kind of step through it together. So it's kind of left to right. I know the numbering doesn't suggest that. So the first thing that I mentioned was the Auditorium feed. That's actually there. There's our studio feed. So mixed in from the studio, mixed with the Auditorium mix. So all that came together there. The studio guy was also adding lower thirds. I know we had a question about that on the last session. So all the presenter lower thirds and end cards and stuff. And then, so that's number 1. Number 2, then number 3, that's an array of Blackmagic web producers. So that's the equivalent of the physical device I've just shown you there, HDMI in or SDI in and USB out. And then that went into our 2 Teams boxes. So literally just a couple of Dell Inspiron laptops running Teams. They got the USB in from the Blackmagic web producers. And then we had 2 machines that actually showed what the output was, so captioned and non-captioned, just so we could kind of monitor it. And this thing here, it's got a yellow box around it. It's actually one big monitor. You just can't really see it. The contrast's quite poor. But that's just a mix of everything I've just talked about, which is actually what got sent back to power this wall. So that was just the mixer that did the wall, basically. So just a few considerations for auditorium stuff. Typically, and you will have seen this today, yesterday at the Ignite keynote, what you're looking at in the auditorium is normally slides and iMag. So it's normally either somebody's video or something like this. So a big picture of the presenter and then the thing that they're talking about. So for FD Live, that's why we split the studio and the auditorium feeds, because we wanted to pick different camera shots, basically. Because this might be quite a nice shot for live. You get a bit of auditorium in there, you get people. So sometimes we'd just take the presenter, sometimes we'd take a wide shot, and then sometimes it would be full screen slide. So there's one mix fit in the room, and that was why we had one team on the left doing that. And then we had our streaming mix on the right. That was the right-hand team that kind of did it for me, that picked and chose. And then ultimately it just all ended in Teams. And we were really careful. We sort of worked together on this to make sure that we didn't use anything that wasn't available to you. So everything we did for Future Decoded Live, I suppose I could just show what it looked like, really, was exactly what's available for you right now in the Teams product if you fake the webcams, basically. So I'll just show you what it looks like. So here we go. So what do we want? Future Decoded Live. So if I just go into one of these, watch on Teams, and we'll say, we don't want to do that. We will say watch on the web, which is how most people would do it. Let's be honest. And it was an anonymous event. And I'll just move this in a few minutes, and we can kind of see it work. So you can get a feel for the quality of it. And on that, probably worth us taking a few more questions, I guess. Do you want to? Yeah, perfect.
Anyone have questions?
Have we got Mr. Mike?
Does it work?
Maybe not.
No.
Okay, great.
What about the resolution? We can get a higher resolution on the Teams or the live event.
Sorry. Yep.
So today, for Teams live events, if you're producing right through your laptop, we support up to 720p, multiple bit rates, adaptive bit rates. We support up to 720p, and that's our support model right now.
What about higher, full HD?
That's something that we're thinking about. I can't tell you when it is coming, but we know it's very important. We know high quality, the highest of quality is important, especially for shared content. And I think that's top of our minds. We understand that, and I think that's...
We want it.
Excuse me?
We really need it.
Yeah, definitely understand. Just to repeat the question, sorry if it wasn't heard. It was, when is high quality or like 1080p coming to Teams live events? And
that should be higher quality, higher than the superb quality that Teams live events already
exactly.
support.
So it already, we see it as like a prioritization exercise. 720p fulfills a lot of the scenarios that we're going after, but we understand there are other scenarios that need 1080p. So that's something that's top of the mind, but I can't share dates at this moment. So thank you for the feedback, though.
Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'll come to you in a second.
How many presenters can you have in a live event like this?
So that's a really good question, and let me caveat this. So as I mentioned before, we've built on top of a Teams meeting. So today, the limit for Teams meeting is 250. But if you've noticed in a Teams meeting, we only subscribe to X amount of videos. Everyone else is like on the side, and we prioritize based on who's talking, active speaker. So the official answer is, yeah, we support up to 250, but our suggestion is up to 9 because that's the limit where you'll be able to see those videos at the bottom, and we believe that that's the number that we suggest for you to be successful in your live event.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it's an appropriate question. So at an infrastructure level, so for us is our top exec wants to reach out to all the employees through the live event. So at infrastructure level, we sort of couldn't introduce this because we know if we wanted to introduce this to our users, they will have to then connect to the internet to download the stream individually on each computer.
Yeah.
So what's your suggested recommendation?
Oh yeah, great point. And it actually, I forgot. I got some stats about that. Yeah. So you were quite quiet. So I'm just going to repeat it just in case for the streams. The question was around bandwidth if loads of people are accessing events at the same time. So Teams live events is just unicast. It's pulling. Is unicast the right one? I always get mixed up about this. Yeah, it is unicast. Everybody makes a connection out, and if it's 2 people watching it, it's 2 times the bit rate, etc. So that is something to be considerate about. But it does use Azure media services behind the scenes, and that does have the ability for partners to plug in to optimize that. So I'm thinking about Contiki Collective, Hive, those kind of partners. I think there are a few, and they will work with Teams live events. And actually, you can sign up for a free trial of Hive Insights, which will let you know what you could save if you deployed one of those technologies, either theirs or one of their competitors. This is the Hive Insights portal from those 2 days at Future Decoded. So that's something that happens live. You can kind of see it moving along. And then if I go into the insights, I can have a look at where my viewers were, what their quality of experience was. If I flip that over, there we are. And then don't forget, the majority of these users were external, so the savings are going to be pretty modest. But it does go down into the savings, and it would tell you what it could have saved. So in this case, Hive would have saved 1%, probably just the people that watched from a Microsoft Office, because I think we've got that deployed there. But if you were on premises, what that's going to do is it's going to look at who's joined from the same subnet, and it's going to realize that it could have optimized it. And the way it optimizes it, it just deploys a Windows desktop agent. Again, Hive, several other manufacturers do this. Partners do the same thing, and the first person in the subnet to get the stream can then rebroadcast it out to other people. So that's a way to network optimize it for live events, or indeed anything that's coming through Azure Media Services.
Yeah, definitely. So if you've identified that this is a scenario or this is a service that you need, it's perfect. As Paul mentioned, there's Hive, there's Collective. There are services that allow you to do 2 things. One is to do peering so that you're not hitting the same endpoint at the same time and bring down your network. As well as you can see here, there's a lot of good stats that are useful for organizers to see where people are joining from and more granular stats. But again, I think one thing that I want to emphasize is this is not a must for you to be able to run a live event. If you've identified, and it's all based on your setup, your network, your organization. If you identified you need this, yes, you can go ahead, but it's not a must for you to be able to have a successful live event.
Okay, another question at the back. We'll take another couple, and then we'll stay behind if anybody else has any. I'll come to you as soon as we've, yeah. Hello.
So,
just go and they'll carry on.
quick question.
does look
Our AV team runs about 960 events per year. What was appealing about this was that they could do this remotely from their PC and all that good stuff. So the major concern that they have is that they're bound to one screen. Is there plans to be able to pop out these in different screens, have your producers like on one screen that you can select them easily, have a different screen with what's the output?
Yeah.
So
Okay, that sounds like an interesting question. What do we know about that?
So to repeat the question, the concern here is that you're bound to one screen, essentially. And if you have multiple monitors, a setup where you can utilize multiple monitors, you can't do that currently. So I'm not sure if you heard some of the announcements that were made yesterday around Teams meetings. And Teams in general, one of the biggest pushes is ability for you to have multi-windows. That's something that's coming in chat. And that's something that's coming for other parts of Teams as well. And rest assured, this scenario is at the forefront of some of the things that we can utilize that functionality for. And we know for a fact that producers would love to be able to utilize their multiple monitors, especially in a high intensity environment as being a producer.
And it's particularly important in the auditorium scenario. So if where did this go? If I just plug the HDMI back into this one, so this was Sarah, this was our presenter, not producer, and I've just added another webcam here, another laptop here. So we've now got 3 in the mix. We've got the TriCaster, this one, and this one. Now what you'll notice is because Sarah is a presenter, I mentioned before that gets a more meeting-like experience. So we now have the slight disadvantage, to be honest, that it's done exactly what it would do in a meeting, which is split the screen down the middle. So if you have multiple presenters and you have somebody who's in a remote auditorium that wants to be a fully active, oh, sorry, I need to, now. It's put it on a different desktop. Right, jolly good. Let's go. I actually don't know where that's coming from. so that's all good. So it does say duplicate, and I'm not convinced it is duplicating. So I'm going to extend it and go back again.
While we figure this out, any other questions? I think we have some more time. I don't know where the mic is, but it's right there.
Thank you.
What about the attendees' quality of experience? Can we get any kind of reports how the attendees has been on the meeting?
So really good question. The question is, do you get reports for attendees? Today we do have an attendee report that organizers can download after the meeting. Again, this is only for events that you produce in Teams. You'll be able to download it. You'll be able to see granular information about when they joined, when they left, and what agent or how they joined and things like that. So you'll be able to see how many people concurrently watch or how many people watch it in total, as well as it'll record people who watched it on a recording as well after the event. So it's a comprehensive report that you can download as a CSV.
Yeah, I just want to come back on that question now. I've duplicated my desktop. So this is as a presenter, and this is obviously the actual meeting rather than watching the web stream. If you're in an auditorium and somebody in that auditorium wants to be an active part of that meeting, but you want to be watching it at the same time, it's a bit tricky because you don't want to be watching a web feed that's 30 seconds out of date. If they're going to be an active part in it, they've got to be part of the meeting. And this is obviously not very helpful to you if you have multiple presenters, because it's going to split the screen in the same way that it would do as a meeting. The easiest way around that, of course, is to just have fewer presenters. And this is going to go back to one screen, which is kind of fine if you send that to the front of the room. But the ability to be able to see the live event mixed output to a small number of people, live, not delayed live, would be very useful. I think we all agree on that.
I was actually looking for the quality of experience of that attendees, not the kind of report that how many has been there. I would like to see it because sometimes people are complaining of the bad quality of the audio or the video. Can we see that similar ways like Hive is doing that one?
Definitely. So just a little bit of background. Today, as you know, The attendee experience is pretty much one way. You have Q&A available to you, but it's one way. And the question, to repeat your question, is there any feedback mechanism for producers to be able to gauge, hey, is the quality good? Are attendees being able to see this properly? Did I get this right? Sorry.
No, actually, I was looking for admin point of view, so that as we who are supporting them, so if on next week we need to actually analyzing how the meeting has been went, I would like to see that how many people has been actually have a very bad quality, or if they have lost the audio totally.
So that's a great question. So repeat again, it's around from an admin perspective. Will I be able to see a comprehensive view of my organization to be able to see if anything has gone wrong? Today, unfortunately, we don't have that. Today, we have an admin center experience where you'll be able to see all the live events that are happening right now or scheduled. But we don't have a feedback mechanism that goes up in terms of allowing admins to be able to monitor a live event.
But there are a ton of partners that do that. Yep. So the one that I just showed you around network optimization, Hive also has a ton of analytics around what that experience was like on a per endpoint basis. It's not free, of course. Well, the insights are, but them and other people do a similar thing. I'm going to call time on it now for people who are going to watch the recording, but we're going to stick around. We'll absolutely answer some more questions, but we'll call the session over for now.